In the last month, pretty much everybody made money in crypto, but among the larger cryptocurrencies, it was Sui that outperformed. Now the question is, why did that outperformance happen? What's the usage statistics of the chain and how much higher can we potentially go in the price? Let's have a look at the data most people are not considering. Now we are currently at $3.92, and in the last month, Sui appreciated by 86%. Now compare that to Bitcoin that only went up by 24%, which isn't really that much of a surprise, right? Bitcoin is the largest of the cryptocurrencies. Of course, it's less volatile. But have a look at Ethereum during the same time frame. It went up only by 62%. Or here, even worse, this is Solana. It appreciated by 36% in the last month. So there seems to be something going on for Sui. Sui is performing better. The question is, will that past outperformance continue? Now, this is not the first video on Sui on this channel. I've already published 4 other videos. The very first one was published 1.5 years ago, and it outperformed the average video. So the average video is here in gray, and that video is the blue line. So roughly 2 times more views than the average video. It was published when the price was still at $1.33. And again, now we are at $3.92. So I tried to publish videos early on this channel of cryptocurrencies that still have upside potential, so feel free to subscribe over here. Now let's get back to Sui. Why did the price perform that well in the last month? Let's have a look at the on-chain analytics. Let's try to figure out whether or not the chain itself is getting used more over time. Because when the usage of a chain is going up, then of course the underlying token also goes up. We have seen this with Solana, for example, with all the meme coin trading. Now what we've got over here is the number of daily transactions on the Sui chain. There are interesting spikes, maybe due to some tests or arbitrage bots, but we do now tend to see higher levels in the number of transactions in the last months compared to, say, 1 year ago. We were just at 5 million. Now we tend to be at around 20 to 25 million. The gas fee at the same time did not increase, so it did not become more expensive to use Sui. Sui seems to not have an issue with bottlenecking, very much contrary to Ethereum, right? Once Ethereum gets used a bit more, then the gas prices spike to the moon. Now here's the number of new accounts, and here we can see real growth for the first time. This is not just random fluctuation, there seems to be real usage happening. However, unfortunately, the number of new accounts is growing faster than the number of active accounts. So that's what we're seeing over here. And so this indicates that a lot of people are just trying out Sui, but then potentially leave again. Now still, in the last months, we see way more activity than 1 year ago. But unfortunately, a lot of those new accounts, they're not sticking around. Let's see if that changes in the future. Now, Sui currently has a market dominance of 0.4%. So if you look at the entire cryptocurrency market cap, 0.4% of that market cap is Sui. The reason why this number is interesting is because we can now put this into perspective relative to the decentralized finance usage. So this is what we see here. This is the total value locked across various chains. And of course, Ethereum is at number 1, and it's got a total value locked of 61 billion or 53%. Solana follows, then comes Tron. Let's have a look at where Sui is over here, 1.8%. So the dominance is only at 0.4%, but the usage in DeFi is 1.8%. So this indicates that the usage might be high enough to justify the price, right? The price might, according to those ratios, potentially 3, maybe even 4x from here. Now here's how the capital on the Sui chain developed over time. So again, the total value locked. And this does not come without its volatility. We've got our rallies, but we also have our contractions. Now some of that contraction might just be due to the Sui price itself going down, because a lot of the assets on the Sui chain are directly bound to the Sui price through liquidity pools. And so we can have a look at the total value locked, not measured in US dollars, but measured in Sui. But unfortunately, here again, we don't see constant growth. Yes, over the very long term, this is going up, but net over the last year, we did not see the total value locked measured in Sui going up. However, during the same time period, the Sui price almost 4x'd, right? It appreciated by 290%. While in comparison, Bitcoin went up by only 57%. So how much is the chain really getting used? Let's have a look at the trading volume on the decentralized exchanges, and let's compare this with other chains. So this is now coming from DEX Screener. In the last 24 hours, we saw $285 million worth of trading volume. And that trading volume, of course, also generates fees, and fees attract more capital. So activity is good to push up total value locked. This is how Solana grew. Now compare this to the Base chain. Base had a trading volume of 1.2 billion in the last 24 hours. So roughly 4 times that. Now another 3 to 4 times and we get to the trading volume of Solana. So Solana has roughly 13, 14 times the trading volume of SOI. The market cap of Solana relative to SOI is only 7 times though. So that would indicate that people are putting Solana potentially on a discount, which might be reasonable because trading of meme coins on the Solana chain tends to rather decline. There was so much player versus player going on that a few players got most of the capital and many people simply got burned. But again, let's get back to SOI. What determines future prices is not just the demand of the token, it's also of course the supply. And the supply is very often connected with tokenomics. So you want to know how much does the supply expand over time, how much is getting paid to early investors and to the team, and how much might the average retail investor get diluted. We can see the numbers here. This is the number of circulating SOI tokens over time. This went from a bit over $500 million to currently 3.3 billion, so more than a 6x. It's going to continue to expand, but relatively speaking at a much slower rate. 5 years from today, there's also a potential secondary 2x unlock. Probably we are going to see new tokenomics at that point. And so how can we explain this outperformance of SOI? Why did it do so much better in the short term, but also in the medium term? Let's have a look at how the price is discovered. So we've got trading volume on centralized exchanges mainly, and that's led by Binance, 165 million in the last 24 hours. But we've also got the perpetual futures market, and that had 1.4 billion worth of trading volume in the last 24 hours. This is massive. SOI is only the 11th largest cryptocurrency. However, it's at number 6 in terms of open interest on the perpetual futures market. So a lot of people bet on the SOI price with leverage. And this is then how the leverage impacts the price. So the open interest is in green and the spot price is in yellow. There's quite a bit of a correlation here. When there's a lot of open interest, the price tends to be high. When there is less open interest, the price tends to deflate. And currently, unfortunately, the open interest is still at a high level and it tends to go down. This is not necessarily that great short term for SOI. All of that open interest creates a lot of fees for the centralized exchanges and the market makers. And that's in the end the only thing that counts for the people that influence the price. So it's very likely that the SOI price will stay volatile. Volatility attracts speculation. Now let's say we do see that deleveraging. Let's say there will be less open interest in the future. How much more could SOI fall relative to the rest of the market? What we've got over here is SOI relative to Bitcoin, and the potential downside is around 34%. That's where the open interest started to expand. Here's SOI relative to Ethereum. Here the downside is 26%. And here's SOI relative to Solana, a downside of 32%. So I think it's quite risky to buy SOI right now. It's probably better to get in once the leverage is out of the market, once the open interest has shrunk. Again, the correlation between those two curves is quite high, and we don't want to necessarily be too much exposed when there's too many people betting on the SOI price. And that is currently the case. Now let's zoom out a little bit and have a look at the macro picture. We actually see an expanding crypto market, money flowing into the market since October of 2023 already. We know this because of this data over here, the stablecoin market cap. It's currently going up. Before October of 2023, it tended to go down. And the way this data is generated by looking at the minting and the redemption of stablecoin. So fundamentally how this works is when you deposit your hard-earned fiat currency to a centralized exchange, then that centralized exchange will send over the fiat currency to a custodian, to a stablecoin issuer. That custodian, so be it USDC, so Circle, or Tether for USDT, that custodian will hold the funds in a dedicated account and then will create tokens. So that's what's happening when this chart is going up. Whenever you're withdrawing your funds, then of course the custodian has to release again the fiat, send it over to you via the centralized exchange, and that's when we go down. And there's a reasonable case to be made that the more money is in a system, the higher the prices should go. Have a look at this. This is Bitcoin since October of 2023. And the largest drawdown we have seen while money was still flowing into the market was 28%. But again, when money is flowing in, those dips tend to get bought up. Now, what are those green circles over here? They appear after a price rally. It's an indication when there's a lot of attention on crypto. So there was a spike in search interest for Bitcoin at the beginning of March of 2024, but also at the middle of November of 2024. So that's what's highlighted with those bubbles. The masses tend to be late. The masses tend to buy after a price rally. And that's the problem, right? Most people enter crypto when prices are high, and then potentially comes at least a short-term correction. And then a lot of those people that got excited about Bitcoin first have to ride through that correction. It can be minor, since currently the market still expands, but it can also be major, of course, as we have seen with prior attention spikes. And so there are two fundamental forces that move the crypto prices. First of all, it's the money in and outflows, but it's also the swapping activity. So once there's capital in the system, people tend to swap in and out of Bitcoin, but also in and out of the altcoins. And whenever we deploy, say, $100 worth of stable coins, the market cap of a crypto asset rises more than that. There is some inherent leverage effect. And that means we can measure how much the market is currently risk on or risk off. What we've got over here is the stablecoin dominance. So it's not the stablecoin market cap, it's the stablecoin dominance. It measures how much of the entire cryptocurrency market cap is currently in stablecoins. When this is very high, the market is risk off. So a lot of the market cap is in stablecoins. When this is very low, the market is very risk on. And in the last 1.5 years, we tended to trade in a range between 5% stablecoin dominance and 9% stablecoin dominance. And surprise, surprise, when the stablecoin dominance is high, it means crypto prices are very low. When the stablecoin dominance is low, crypto prices tend to be high. So interestingly enough, whenever the stablecoin dominance is low and when prices have already gone up, that's when the tourists enter and first get burned. So we want to be counter-cyclical. We want to sell when stablecoin dominance is low. We want to buy when stablecoin dominance is high. And it very much looks like we are currently on the way to seeing more stablecoin deployments. In other words, the current positive rally is probably going to continue. I don't have a crystal ball. It's just the way how I interpret the data. And then the question is, does it make sense to just buy Bitcoin if we expect prices to go up, or should we rather go with the altcoins? Now, some altcoins can do phenomenally. Others tend to underperform. But let's have a look at, for example, Virtual. Virtual went up by almost 3x in the last month. But I think it's better to try to find those altcoins very early. So the real gains had been made in the early days, right? When we look at the all-time chart of Virtual Protocol, those gains are immense. 20,000%. And so the life-changing money is not necessarily just in riding the current wave and buying a broad basket of altcoins. It's trying to find approaches to get into those altcoins much earlier than most. And I think a very good approach is to look at people that tended to buy well-performing assets early in the past. So for example here, right, this is Brian Young. He bought the Virtual Protocol token at 7 cents. And that was on the 21st of March 2024. So that's over here. We subsequently saw a rally of more than 6,000%. And so here's his YouTube channel, right? He's got more than 2 million subscribers. It of course begs the question, is Brian Young just more skilled, or does he have sufficient impact on the prices? Because maybe some of his following is buying into the token as well. I don't know, but it's always valuable to know what those kind of people are doing. The way how we knew about Brian Young buying into the token at that time was not because he announced it that early on his channel. It was because we track his wallets. We've got 5 of Brian Young's wallets. In total, we track almost 600 influencer wallets. So we've got also wallets by Alex Becker. He's got 1.6 million subscribers. We are also tracking the Crypto Banter channel. They've got 1.2 million subscribers. And again, I think it makes sense to be very early with the insiders and with the people that move the market. Now, of course, not every single token that's purchased by an influencer is going to rally. Some tokens are just bought and never announced on the social media, so we don't have the purchases by the following. But if you want to have a chance of being early, if you want to get the 10 or 20x returns, we can't just buy what's already big, right? We have to buy the things that the smart money is buying as well. And so here are a few examples of trades that our community has made. We discuss the influencer trades. We discuss potential opportunities to bet on rising, but also to bet on falling prices, depending on market conditions. And so, of course, we track our influencer wallets, but there's also a tutorial section on just how to find those influencer wallets. There are various approaches through NFTs, through related transactions, through deposit addresses on centralized exchanges. There are 8 tutorial videos in total. And so then the community is trying to figure out what wallets that we are not yet tracking can we potentially add to our bot. So there's a dedicated wallet research chat. We've just added influencer Chicken Genius. And then every day we get signals when influencers buy and sell. Selling is also important, right? Most people don't publish when they sell. It's very interesting. Some people just buy, publish a video on an asset, and then sell just a few hours afterwards. They're literally pumping and dumping on the audience. It's quite nice to look behind the scenes. And so feel free to check it out. It's down below. It's thebitcoinstrader.com. Currently the price is $125 per month. It went down because search interest in crypto is now rather low. Once we are up again, the price of course will get increased, but not for the people that are already subscribed. So once you sign up for 125, that price is locked in. So here's my recommendation. Don't wait until attention is again at those heights. We are still early. The market is expanding though. Macro is positive, but you don't want to wait until the rally has already happened. Right now, attention is still low. The rally is likely going to continue. As said, there's still money on the sidelines. The stablecoin dominance has room to further fall, which will result in rising altcoin prices. It's just about figuring out what altcoin has most upside. If it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish videos regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time on YouTube or see you in premium. The link is down below, thebitcoinstrader.com. There should also be a link directly here on the screen where you click on that link, then it will lead you directly to the page. See you next time. Bye-bye.